What Republican resistance reveals about Trump's waning grip on power. American politics rarely slows down, but this past week was particularly busy. Among the many developments, one episode stood out not because of dramatic speeches or explosive headlines, but because of something far more unusual in the Trump-era Republican resistance. The state of Indiana, long considered safely Republican, became the setting for a subtle yet consequential act of defiance against President Donald Trump's political will. President Trump had urged Republican lawmakers in Indiana, much as he has in other GOP-controlled states, to redraw congressional districts in a way that would give Republicans a clearer advantage in the upcoming midterm elections. The objective was straightforward and openly partisan: flip Democratic-leaning seats, secure 2 additional Republican seats from Indiana, and strengthen the party's grip on the House of Representatives. In states such as Texas and Missouri, Republican leaders complied. Even in North Carolina, a politically competitive swing state, lawmakers moved forward with redistricting aligned with Trump's request. Indiana, however, said no. What made this moment striking was not merely the outcome, but who delivered it. A majority of Indiana's Republican legislators voted against the proposal, effectively blocking Trump's plan. In doing so, they delivered one of the clearest internal rebukes Trump has faced from his own party since entering national politics. For a figure who built his political dominance on party loyalty, intimidation, and the threat of retaliation, this resistance carries implications that go far beyond state-level map drawing. At first glance, the refusal might seem puzzling. Indiana is not a swing state. It has leaned Republican for decades and has little incentive, on paper, to challenge a Republican president seeking partisan advantage. Moreover, redistricting has long been a familiar and accepted tool in American politics. Both parties have used it aggressively when in power. Why, then, did Indiana Republicans draw a line where others did not? The answer lies at the intersection of voter sentiment, political self-preservation, and the gradual erosion of Trump's authority within his own party. Indiana lawmakers were not acting in a vacuum. According to reports and local feedback, voters in the state were strongly opposed to the proposed redistricting. Many viewed it as an unnecessary power grab driven by national politics rather than local interests. In a political environment already saturated with cynicism, the idea of manipulating district boundaries to satisfy a president's electoral strategy struck many voters as deeply unappealing. This voter backlash mattered. Unlike federal politicians who often operate at a comfortable distance from their constituents, state legislators are deeply embedded in their communities. They attend local events, hear complaints at grocery stores, and face neighbors who are willing to confront them directly. For these lawmakers, supporting Trump's plan risked alienating the very people who determined their political survival. Adding to the pressure were reports of intimidation tactics from the far right. Some lawmakers received threats, personal information was exposed, and coordinated harassment efforts targeted those seen as insufficiently loyal to Trump. Ironically, rather than forcing compliance, these tactics appear to have hardened resistance. For many Indiana Republicans, the question shifted from partisan advantage to principle: should a state legislature allow itself to be bullied by national political forces? One Republican lawmaker captured this sentiment succinctly when he framed the issue as a matter of federalism. The argument was simple but powerful: conservatism, at its core, values limited federal power and respect for state autonomy. Allowing the president or the national party to dictate how a state redraws its districts runs counter to that philosophy. In this framing, rejecting Trump's demand was not an act of disloyalty, but an affirmation of conservative values. This moment also highlights a broader shift in Trump's political standing. During his first term, Trump's influence over the Republican Party was near absolute. Opposition often came at a steep price, typically in the form of primary challenges backed by Trump's endorsement and amplified by his loyal base. For years, this threat was enough to ensure compliance. But Trump is no longer at the height of his power. His approval ratings during his second term have hovered in the low to mid-30s, with particularly weak numbers on economic issues. These figures matter. A president with strong public support can bend party members to his will. A president with declining approval becomes a liability rather than an asset. Indiana Republicans appear to have done the math. Supporting Trump's redistricting plan might have pleased the White House, but it offered little benefit and considerable risk at home. In local districts where voters are wary of political manipulation, aligning too closely with a deeply polarizing national figure could be damaging. This calculation may signal a broader trend. As Trump moves further into the latter phase of his presidency, his capacity to intimidate his own party appears to be weakening. Lawmakers are beginning to test the boundaries of dissent, asking whether the political cost of opposing him is still as high as it once was. In Indiana, the answer appears to have been no. The contrast with states like Texas and Missouri is instructive. In those states, Republican leadership remains closely aligned with Trump, and voter backlash has either been less intense or more easily managed. North Carolina's compliance is particularly notable, given its swing state status. There, the incentive to secure partisan advantage may have outweighed concerns about backlash, reflecting a more aggressive and risk-tolerant political culture. Indiana, by contrast, reflects a Midwestern political sensibility that often prizes stability, moderation, and restraint. While the state is reliably conservative, it is not uniformly enthusiastic about political theatrics or heavy-handed tactics. Threats, bullying, and national pressure campaigns tend to play poorly in such environments. There is also a historical irony in Indiana's resistance. It is the home state of former Vice President Mike Pence, a figure whose relationship with Trump ended in dramatic and public rupture. While Pence was not directly involved in this episode, the state's political culture has long balanced loyalty to the Republican Party with a strong sense of institutional order and rule following. In this context, rejecting Trump's demand can be seen as part of a broader pattern rather than an isolated event. Beyond the immediate implications for redistricting, this episode raises important questions about the future of the Republican Party. Is Indiana an outlier, or a preview of what is to come? Will more Republican lawmakers begin to assert independence as Trump's influence fades, or will this resistance remain limited to a few states with unique political cultures? For Democrats, Indiana's decision offers both hope and caution. On one hand, it suggests that Republican unity is not as monolithic as it once was. Internal divisions can create opportunities, particularly in closely contested national battles. On the other hand, the fact that Trump's plan succeeded in other states underscores the continued effectiveness of partisan redistricting as a political weapon. Ultimately, Indiana's refusal is less about maps and more about power. It reveals a president whose ability to command unquestioned loyalty is diminishing, and a party beginning slowly and cautiously to rediscover internal debate. Whether this marks the beginning of a larger shift or merely a temporary deviation remains to be seen. What is clear is that Indiana's lawmakers made a calculated choice. Faced with pressure from the White House, threats from the political fringe, and dissatisfaction among voters, they chose to prioritize local accountability over national ambition. In doing so, they reminded observers that even in an era defined by polarization and strongman politics, resistance can still emerge with spectacle, but with quiet resolve. In American politics, such moments are rare. That is precisely why this one matters. Follow us for more essential health tips for seniors and caregivers.